If someone wanted a peek into your writer's room, what would they see?
Attic room, tiny north window, stacks of books that I'm going to review, stacks of other material that I'm going to do other work with. You can barely find a computer screen.
What's your work schedule when writing a new book?
The macro schedule is I plunge in for about a week, find out who the characters are, take a couple of weeks off to digest everything that came during that time, and then I plunge back in and finish it in 3 to 4 weeks. The micro schedule is I don't have a schedule. As soon as I have a schedule, as soon as I find myself getting up in the morning and working at 9, from 9 to 5 or 9 to noon, then I find ways to subvert it. I pull an all-nighter playing a video game. I have no schedule. I live in chaos.
Which books and authors do you feel have influenced your writing?
Inside science fiction, I strive for the clarity of Isaac Asimov and the musicality, the fluidity of the language of Ray Bradbury. But the deepest influence, the influence that shows up whenever I am not paying attention, whenever I'm trying to be serious, whenever the writing matters to me, it comes out sounding like the King James Version of the Bible.
What's your favorite book?
Of the hundreds of books that I love, the 3 that I reread again and again are Pride and Prejudice, The Lord of the Rings, and the Book of Mormon.
Who is your favorite author?
Jane Austen, J.R.R. Tolkien, William Shakespeare.
What's your favorite game?
Favorite meaning play the most, even though I hate it and hate every minute of it, Civilization, Sid Meier's Civilization on the computer. The game that I love is Ticket to Ride. My wife and I play it incessantly.
What's your favorite movie?
Out of hundreds of favorite movies, the ones that keep rising to the top, A Man for All Seasons, Love Actually, Sense and Sensibility, Shop Around the Corner, You've Got Mail.
What's your favorite TV show?
How I Met Your Mother, Burn Notice, Person of Interest, Elementary, and my guilty secret, Tosh.0.
What are you reading now?
What I'm actually reading in a physical book are the works of Daniel Abraham, fantasy novelist. And what I'm listening to on my iPod Nano is Shelby Foote's History of the Civil War.
Any words of wisdom and advice to aspiring writers?
Stop aspiring and just write your brains out. There's nothing to wait for. No one has to give you permission. You're already a writer if you're writing. And if you're not writing, you're not one. Get out of your writer's group. If you've been in it for a year, they've already taught you everything they're going to teach you. Besides, you're going to learn more from their bad writing than you're ever going to learn from the things they tell you about your own. So it becomes a therapy group after a very short time. When you're actually writing, all you have to think about is what happens and why. That's what a story is. It's about motive. And the techniques that you use are all about faith, hope, and clarity. You try to get the readers to believe, you try to get them to care, and you make it so clear that they never have to stop and reread in order to figure out what's going on.
With Ender's Game, you've written young characters who appeal strongly to adult readers. What's your secret for engaging both YA and adult readers?
I write about human beings, whatever age they happen to be. I write as clearly as I can, telling stories that I care about and believe in. And I hope that there's an audience that will respond. As for the difference between younger and older readers, younger readers are patient with one kind of bad writing, older readers are patient with another kind of bad writing, but story trumps all.
Why did you decide to use a young boy as the protagonist in a book about a great war between humanity and aliens?
I'm not using a young boy as the protagonist in a book about a war. I'm using a war as a background for a story about a boy being trained for war.
Ender's Game has often been cited as a good book to read by readers who are not fans of science fiction. Why do you think it appeals to both fans and those who do not usually read science fiction?
I was never a fan of science fiction per se. I grew up reading authors, not genres. So I read Heinlein, Asimov, Andre Norton, Ray Bradbury, Larry Niven. These were the writers who taught me what science fiction was, but I read them because of who they were and the stories they wrote. I was reading other things along the way, much more of the other things. So I'm a writer of literature who happens to write in the science fiction genre. But I've never lost track of what it means not to be a reader of science fiction, so that I try to communicate with as wide an audience as possible.